Hello, my friends. Today is day 198, and we're reading Isaiah chapter 18 through Isaiah chapter 22. But before we get started, I want to thank you for taking a moment to check out this video. Hopefully, you're finding the yearly Bible reading program to be incredibly helpful and enjoyable and a great advantage, a great benefit to you as you strengthen your walk with Jesus Christ. If you have not yet accepted the invitation, please take a moment to check out the description box below, and there you'll find a link that will take you directly to the YouVersion Bible app, where you can join a number of readers who are reading the Bible every single day and leaving feedback on the things they're learning and discovering. And I sincerely believe that you'll be blessed by the community and by the collaboration of individuals encouraging you to read the Bible every day. All right, so here we are, Isaiah chapter 18 through Isaiah chapter 22, and we are trying our best to make it through all of God's word by the end of the year. But in order to do that, we have to follow this incredible plan that takes us step by step through the different, what some would call eras of the Bible. And what that simply means is that the Bible is broken up into different parts of a story. You have the Garden of Eden. You have the Abrahamic family comprising of Abraham and the 12 tribes of Israel. You have this united phase. Then have a divided phase where the kingdom becomes divided. And then they're scattered and they're brought back together to be a part of the return to the promised land. And then you have obviously the coming of Jesus Christ. And then the church will then be dispersed or sent out to the world. All of these things have been defined in a variety of ways. I'm actually a part of a Bible study group that goes through this exact methodology of understanding the narrative of the Bible every year. In fact, it's a 2-year program. We do it every 2 years. But the ultimate goal is to wrap your mind around what the scriptures are actually, what they're trying to say in totality by going through each page, each era, each period of the biblical narrative. And right now we're in this part where the nation of Israel is being scattered throughout the entire world. And because of that, God has these prophets speaking to various nations who were never a part of the picture whenever Israel was in the promised land, unified as a kingdom and thriving. There was not much conversation except for those who were threatening them. But, most recently we read about a period where there was peace. Solomon had everything going the way it should, and they were enjoying the peace of being a stabilized nation. That has all been interrupted because of their sins. And now God is speaking to various nations, both on how they are to deal with Israel, and then also on how he will judge them for how they dealt with them. All right. And so we have a number of nations and people groups that are being addressed. Now, one of the first ones that we came across today was Ethiopia. And I'm so fascinated by the way Ethiopia is referenced and referred to. It says in chapter 18, verse 1, listen, Ethiopia, land of fluttering sails that lies at the headwaters of the Nile, that sends ambassadors in swift boats down the river. Go swift messengers, take a message to a tall, smooth-skinned people who are feared far and wide for their conquest and destruction, and whose land is divided by rivers. In verse 7, it talks about, again, tall, smooth-skinned people who are feared far and wide for their conquest and destruction. So it's just an interesting way of referring to them and just talking about them and describing them. I found that to be fascinating. I also found that it was interesting about how this prophecy is regarding Egypt. Egypt has historically been a fortress of resilience, of dominance, of providence, protection for a lot of nations and cities. And quite naturally, Israel thinks they're going to run to Egypt to find comfort and safety from the destruction that God will send. What they discover, however, is that God is going to get Egypt as well. And the very thing that they look to protect them will not be there to protect them. It goes to show that when God makes up his mind to judge a people, we really can't get in his way. There's nothing we can do to stop it. There's nothing we can do to protect them from it. When God decides what he's going to do, that's the end of it. And we just have to accept that and deal with it. One of the prophets that come to mind regarding that very sentiment is Jeremiah. We'll read about him a little later, but he seems to encourage the people, don't fight against what God is trying to do because you will never win. And we see that this is stated also in the book of Isaiah. Now, in chapter 21, we have again a very, very interesting reference to Babylon, which is so peculiar. It's peculiar because Babylon is, a ways away. It's not far away, but Babylon is coming, but they're not there yet. And to see Isaiah talking about Babylon in the way that he's talking about, it's one thing to refer to the coming of Babylon as a mighty, empire that's going to shake Judah and, desecrate the city and things like that. But it's another thing to talk about the destruction of Babylon as something that is guaranteed and also inevitable. It's almost as if Isaiah sees no chance of Babylon surviving because he is fully aware that Babylon will do exactly what is needed to warrant her demise. It's kind of like before a nation even has a chance, a chance to fail, he already knows that there's going to be some issues there. And he starts off, Babylon, the desert by the sea. Disaster is roaring down on you from the desert like a whirlwind sweeping in from the Negev. And he talks about seeing terrifying visions, and he just goes on and on and on. And that infamous, that world known claim, Babylon is fallen. All the idols of Babylon lie broken on the ground. So you can see that this judgment against Babylon becomes maybe a well-known common saying among the prophets, which will continue and carry over into the New Testament. Babylon is fallen, a reference to the hostile empire that persecutes God's people. And so we see how that carries throughout the biblical narrative. And then this message about Jerusalem, man, it's referred to as the Valley of Vision. And this line that he has in verse 1, what is happening? Why is everyone running to the rooftops? When I read that, the first thing that came to my mind was Matthew 24, when Jesus is talking about the judgment that will come upon this same city during his time period. He makes references to those who are on the rooftops. And I'm saying, gosh, there's another reference from the Old Testament referring to the tragedy and the disaster that will come upon Jerusalem. And it's all rooted in Old Testament ideologies and Old Testament phrases. And so he says the whole city is in a terrible uproar. What do I see in this reveling city? Bodies are lying everywhere. Isaiah had a pretty peculiar ministry as he prophesied, one that was very demonstrative, as we will see in Ezekiel's case, where he's walking around naked, depicting exactly what will happen to his people, how they're going to be in a dire situation that resembles the conditions in which he's portraying. And again, this is the Lord's attempt to bring his people back to him so that they can avoid this imminent and inevitable destruction. But they will not hearken. And of course, the Lord he's going to fulfill his word against them. So a lot going on here. Again, I think the prophetic ministry is necessary and needed in every generation. I think we always need someone to call us out and call us in. And I have to appreciate the prophets for doing that. Even if they were not by our standards successful, they were successful by God's standards because they spoke the word. And the success is not determined by how many people necessarily repents, but how many people hear. And the world heard the message of the prophets. And so they got their job done, and they were, by God's definition, successful. So may that be an encouragement to us, especially those who are called to proclaim the gospel of Jesus. that your success may not always be determined by, individuals in seats or, baptisms or whatever the case is. It may be determined by how many people will the Lord allow you to speak to and warn from um, the imminent and the coming wrath that will be poured out on those who disobey. So that's, I think, as worthy of a call as any other. Okay, so let's keep reading. We got so much to go, so much more to read, and so much further to go. And I would love to hear what you think is valuable and sticking out to you from today's reading. So leave in the comment box below, or in the YouVersion app. I believe it will be a blessing and it will stir up a lot of conversation. But until next time, thank you for watching. Take care. God bless, and remember, live by the word.